Okay.
All right. Like we're live.
I think so. All right. Go ahead and get started here shortly. We'll let some of the attendees here start to file in. Maybe we can just pull up the first welcome slide. Okay, well, we're a little over a minute in, and so we'll go ahead and get started. Of course, this will be recorded, so we can send it out to whomever would need it or may have joined late. But yeah, welcome everyone. This is our first of many workshops that we're hosting at BeMyApp. This one is titled the Event Data Analysis, Positive Business Outcomes with Hackathon. So we're going to focus the curriculum today on how our partners and customers are leveraging hackathons, this particular event format, in ways that are driving positive business outcomes. And so we hope that you find this engaging. We will, of course, have the chat open off to the side there. Feel free to type any questions or comments that you might have there. And then after Justin takes us through the curriculum today, we will publish a quiz that you guys can partake in as well. And that will be in the survey section of the chat dialogue section to your right there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, Justin Langley, he's our managing director of our production team at BeMyApp. He is your primary expert presenter today that will take us through the curriculum. And you have myself as well. My title is sales director here at BeMyApp, and I'll be kind of emceeing today. As I mentioned before, a little bit, the focus, we are having a bit of an opening now. I think it's important for us to define terms. So we'll go through a quick definition of what a hackathon means, at least in the context of this workshop. Take you through some of the more common use cases that we've seen where businesses have been investing in the hackathon format. And then we'll dive into the actual curriculum, talking a little bit further about specific key performance indicators and things that businesses like to measure and how they drive business impact. From there, we'll wrap up and as I mentioned, we'll administer a little quiz at the end. So defining terms, we have here a standard definition, what most people would define a hackathon as being, and then what we've seen is somewhat of an evolving definition of a hackathon. So without reading all the words there on the slide, the standard definition is usually geared toward the tech space. A hackathon is commonly known as something that is almost exclusively for computer programmers that are building IT solutions or software solutions. And the evolving definition down below is we're seeing actually very unique use cases of leveraging a hackathon format. Sometimes, some of our customers might call it an ideathon or come up with other creative names, but it's kind of transcending beyond the tech space. And it really is just anytime you want to try to adopt the broader tribe and get more qualitative and quantitative data to create something that is entirely new from something that exists today. It's definitely broadened in that regard. And we're also seeing that when we talk about business impact, hackathons can sometimes just be fun contests, but they're more than that. They're actually driving real business strategy. And it's not just the results that we're seeing. So you have a hackathon, people come in and build things, and then the results are what they've built. But we're also seeing that companies are able to drive real business impact just through the experience of the hackathon itself. So we'll dive into a little bit more of that when we get into some of these KPIs. So very quickly, some of the top reasons, and before I pass it off to Justin, that we're seeing, to summarize what we're seeing our customers and partners leveraging hackathons for around product development, faster iterations, and a more collaborative development environment for business use cases, and also just to afford more efficiencies around product launches. So going from that ideation to prototype to minimum viable product to general availability, that process is hackathons seem to find ways to streamline and bring efficiencies there. A really interesting one that Justin will go into is around recruiting or talent sourcing. So HR departments are leveraging hackathons as a very unique way to allow talent, not only to attract and retain top talent, but also to see them at work, and not just for them leveraging what they know and their competencies, but being able to see them work in a team dynamic. So that's really interesting. I'll let Justin describe that a little bit more. Also in the HR realm of things, employee engagement. It's all about motivation and alignment these days, especially with all the ever-changing work environment. So hackathons lend themselves well there. Developer relations is kind of a common one, but building an ecosystem of developers and building mind share around something that you're doing. Companies use it for that. And then the last two are around brand awareness and lead and demand gen. So yeah, if you're a tractor company that wants to let the world know you care about machine learning and artificial intelligence or Web3, you can do that through a hackathon. And if you're wanting to just kind of drive lead and demand generation, that's also a popular one that Justin will talk a little bit more about as a KPI around qualified marketing leads.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael, for that introduction. And hello, everyone who's watching live and everyone who's going to be watching this recording. It's great to deliver this content to you today. I've been working at BeMyApp for almost 7 years now. And in that time, I've run hundreds of in-person hackathons as well as a lot virtual hackathons. So these KPIs and metrics and this information that I'll be presenting today comes from a culmination of all of those events and what we see with hackathons. So that's a little bit of a lead-in to the background and experience that we have with hackathons. And I'll get started here with the top KPIs and metrics. So the first one is qualified marketing leads. Then we're going to get into business use cases. We'll talk about MVPs. And we'll talk about how you can use hackathons for testing and feedback. And then finally, as Michael mentioned, talent sourcing. So first, we're going to start by defining what is a qualified marketing lead. And this term might get thrown around a lot, and companies may have different definitions, but for majority of the countries and the clients that we work with, a qualified marketing lead has 3 parts to it. So the first one is the information that you're collecting. And the information that you're collecting is driven by the participants filling in this information for you based on the fields that you have in registration that are available to them and the ones that are marked as required for them to fill out. So typically when we run a hackathon, we're going to get the first name, the last name, we're going to get the email. Some companies are looking for their business emails versus their personal email. Where the phone can be an optional data field to collect. It's really comes in handy when you're doing in-person hackathons and you want to send reminders to folks for RSVPs. And then the rest of the information is more demographical around the participant. So their company, their job title, their location, where they are in the world. We have the ability a lot of times to ask for a website link. LinkedIn is the new business card, so we're collecting LinkedIn's. And then there's always custom add-ons available. So for most registration platforms you're going to use or survey forms that you're going to use, you're going to have this ability for custom add-ons. And that's a great way to ask those specific questions that might match your unique CRM fields. The second step here is required globally for registration. That's the privacy policy. So any participant who is signing up to your platform, they should accept to share their data with the company and with your provider. So in this example that I provided, we would fill in the company with the client we're working with, and then us as BeMyApp running the platform, we need to be covered as well. So the participant would be required to accept this statement upon registering for the event. So they know that the collection and use of their personal data will follow the treatment described in the company we're working with privacy policy, as well as our privacy policy. Now, the third step is where it really becomes an opt-in for marketing. So these first two steps allow you to communicate to your registrant around the event itself. If you want to go further and reach out to them and use them as a marketing lead and send them emails or information that is unrelated to the event that they signed up for, you need to have their explicit permission to do so. For this, we implement an optional checkbox so that the user has the ability to say yes or no. And the way that we like to script it is by selecting yes, you agree to the company we're working with contacting you with marketing related emails. And of course, you may unsubscribe from receiving such communications from the company at any time. And then you need to have proper unsubscribe policies in place so that people can opt out later. So once you've collected the information, they've accepted the privacy policy. And if they have selected yes to the marketing opt-in, that's what we would call a qualified marketing lead or a number of registrants. You may have additional registrants who started filling out some of the information or who have not selected yes to being contacted with marketing related emails. Those are still participants for your event. But as far as what goes in your CRM as a qualified marketing lead that you can later nurture, you need to have that marketing opt-in. So what happens with the lead? Leads are going to be captured within the event platform that you use, whether that's BeMyApp, Eventbrite, you're using SurveyMonkey, Typeform. However you are collecting the information on the previous slide, that's the event platform that is going to store that information. Then from there, you can either export that data and import it, or you can set up an automated linkage between the registration platform and your CRM. So you need to determine going into your event, is this going to be a long-term engagement where we want to set up automation and we want these leads to automatically go into our CRM? And anytime people maybe sign up a second time or sign up for something similar, will it update that CRM? But when you're entering into an engagement like a hackathon, you want to consider where are you going to take that data? Where is it going to live? And then how are you going to use it in the future? How are you going to nurture those leads? Which leads me into the next piece, because qualified marketing lead is just one piece of the puzzle. From there, you want to be able to develop relationships for years to come with those leads. Now that you've gotten them interested in a hackathon, you've gotten them interested in your event, then you want to engage them in similar activities. You want to send them personal messaging around the types of activities, engagements that you've had with them. And ideally, you want to enable automation. So if you have someone who joins your hackathon and you send them some messages about the hackathon, when the event ends, maybe in a week, they get an email about another opportunity, or they get an email to connect with you on the sales side. And from there, you might want to have automatic emails that go out for other events that you have coming up, for other touch points that you have with potential customers. And it can be done manually, but it's best if it's automated. And the whole reason that you're nurturing your leads is to build that online community. You want to continue interacting with your participants after the event. You want to identify who are your super users. You want to identify who's engaging and interested in your company, your product, your service, so that you can reach out to them in the future and ideally take them from a hackathon participant into a buyer or a user of your software or products. The next top KPI that companies typically measure when they run hackathons are business use cases. And I'll start this by asking, what do we get out of hackathons? So Michael gave you the definition of hackathons, but What does that mean for you as a company who's running a hackathon? Well, this is a way for you to crowdsource many new and novel ideas in a short amount of time without much investment. So I like to think of it as the most diverse and creative think tank you could assemble, but without having to hire those individuals or a specific agency or organization. If you think about what that would mean to hire someone, onboard them, train them, then give them the time and the resources necessary to come up with ideas, that takes a huge investment, can take 4, 5, 6 months. By the time 6 months passes, that product or service may be evolving and changing. Then you have to restart that cycle all over again. With a hackathon, you can spend less money than it would be to hire those individuals or those organizations, and you get more ideas out of it. And you get diverse ideas, novel ideas that one person wouldn't be able to think of all those ideas on their own. So you're really leveraging the power of crowdsourcing. And now, once you have those use cases, what are the benefits of them? So use cases are tools for your sales team, your consultants, your customers, your ISVs, your clients. It shows all the many different possibilities of using your product or service. And why that's good is because it connects the dots from what is this and how do I use it to, okay, I can see how that would be a great benefit to my company, my customer, or my partners. So you have more tools at your disposal to connect with potential customers, with buyers. You can show them, hey, we put this great service or product out there. Look at all the different possibilities that people came up with at a hackathon, all on their own. How can you use it at your company? Do any of these use cases that have been generated at this hackathon match your specific needs? So it can really help you to take that asset that is that use case and use it to drive revenue, drive sales, drive creativity within your own company, drive creativity within your ecosystem. Oops. The next one I'm going to cover are MVPs. So always going to start with the definition. MVP means minimum viable product. And in terms of what you can expect out of a hackathon, it's an app or a functioning software or product demo that utilizes a core technology from the hackathon sponsor, and usually in combination with open source software and custom coding. So they're going to come to the hackathon. You're going to say, hey, my company XYZ, we're all about this technology or this software or this product. Take this product, run with it. What can you do? What would you do with that? Build on top of it. Here's our API. Here's our developer portal. Here's some documentation for you for getting started. So take that core technology and now go and add in open source APIs. Do your own custom coding. Take it to the next level. And the main purpose of that MVP is to focus on that core feature that is solving that clearly defined problem that users are experiencing, and showing how you can build that into your ecosystem, how you can use that for the use case that you need. So that MVP at the end of the hackathon is your proof of concept. It is your blueprint to what can be done, and at a rudimentary level, actually working. With hackathons, these are free community events. These folks are going to need a lot of time and investment to go from MVP to full product launch. But that's where you can use a hackathon to come up with many different MVPs and then decide which of those makes sense to invest in to go into a full product launch. So you're getting all of those MVPs at a low cost before in testing them out before you're deciding what to move forward with. So let's get into what is actually submitted as part of a hackathon MVP, what you can expect to get from participants who are joining your hackathon. So each hackathon may be different, but for us, the general submission requirements are going to start with a completed project page. We have our own hackathon platform that allows for people to upload their projects to fill out a set of predefined fields within a project page. So that's what we use. You can use other platforms. You can use Typeform, SurveyMonkey. You can use any sort of submission tool. But in the end, you want to get The title, what are you calling it? A description, what does it do? Any graphical assets that are created. You know, people love to create logos and banners for their hackathon projects. What are the steps of the product? What is happening? Screenshots, if they've taken them, of their MVP. Perhaps a flow diagram of showing how the product or service that they're trying to create works. Maybe it goes deep into the software components and it's showing how the tech stack is built out. And then, of course, a list of the team members to know who all is involved in this project. Next is going to be similar, but more built out into a presentation. So within the submission form or the project page, you want to have a slideshow presentation. You want your participants to deliver a slideshow that details out the issue they're solving. What is the solution to that issue? What are the use cases that their solution are good for? And then how does it work? Again, getting into the technological side of it. And then what are the next steps? And finally, especially with virtual hackathons over the last couple of years, it's paramount to be getting a video presentation from your participants because they're running a demo of that MVP that was built. So you want them to show it in action. You want them to put it in the best light possible. Typically, we're asking for 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes should be enough time to clearly show what it is, what they built does, how it works. And you know, if you want to go further with them after the hackathon, then you can delve into the details further. But for the purposes of collecting that MVP out of the hackathon, you're looking for a 3 to 5 minute video presentation. So this next slide, I'm going to go into a real world example. I spun the roulette wheel, picked a random hackathon that we've run recently, spun it again, picked one of the winning projects, and here we are. The hackathon was the Google Cloud CodeLove Hack. That was the name of the hackathon. You can go to codelovehack.bemyapp.com to see the event website. For this hackathon, the sponsor, of course, was Google Cloud, and they were requiring participants to utilize their GKE autopilot technology. We're highlighting today the winning team, Predict 360, and the description of their project, Predict 360. It's a developer-friendly AI and IoT prediction system invoked at scale by incoming IoT events and history of bike data. So they took GKE Autopilot platform, they brought in their own coding, their own APIs and open source software from AI and IoT, and built their use case around history of bike data. So I've got a link to the demo here. I've also got a slide here that shows it. So in their presentation, they're going to introduce themselves. They're going to introduce their project that they created. Here, like I mentioned, they're talking through the flow diagram. They're talking through the architecture of how their project and their MVP works. They're going further here into the actual demo now. They're in the cloud environment and they're showing the different calls that they're running. They're showing the way that the program is running and how their MVP actually functions. They're going to go through that. They're going to show us the output of what comes out of the program that they built. Then they're going to go further here into different features within their project that they built. Here's a visual outcome that you get when you put in all the inputs and you've run their project. And then, they're just going to go through and keep explaining their project. And this whole video here, that's your MVP. That's your artifact. This is something you can take and promote and share and take to your customers and take to your clients and show them a use case, an MVP that was built using this new Autopilot GKE and why this team decided to use GKE. So that's a real world example of what you get in terms of a video demonstration from a hackathon. All right, so the next KPI that we're going to talk about is testing and feedback. Hackathons are just a really good way to collect product testing and feedback on your products. Again, going back to this crowdsource mentality, You have a new product, a new feature. You want people to actually get their hands on it. You want them to test it. You want them to break it. What better way than to run a free community event like a hackathon, get people interested in getting a chance to test your new product or technology. The better the prize pool you have, the more people you're going to get to join your hackathon. But when you're introducing this product to this community, you're going to get feedback on the documentation, because they're going to be trying to use the documentation. So if they run into snags or hiccups, they're going to tell you. You're going to find out how easy it is to use. Hackathon participants will not be shy to tell you if it was not easy to use. And they're going to point out specifically, because for a hackathon, you're typically going to have your product team or your mentors involved. So when a participant runs into an issue, they're going to reach out and let them know what the issue is. And that's a great way to test and collect and improve your product. Oftentimes, they're going to tell you what are the missing features, what are the most important features of what they use. And then something that you would be really expensive to do otherwise is testing real implementation. They're integrating into your software, your technology. They're running the scripts, they're running the calls, they're seeing if it's working or not. And they're going to let you know if it's not, and you're going to have a chance to figure out why and fix it. Or if it's working, you're going to see how it's working and how well it's working. So how we measure feedback outside of what I just mentioned, of just firsthand use and participants reaching out and telling you what is and isn't working, you can go a step further and you can use surveys to collect that direct first-person feedback on everything that I just mentioned: documentation, ease of use, features, etc. So you can do those throughout the hackathon. You can do that at the end of the hackathon. Of course, incentives are gold in this case. So the more incentives that you have, the more feedback you're going to get. So we usually typically use Typeform. We send it out at the end of the hackathon. We are offering up gift cards for people who take the survey, and we're asking them a set of questions around the hackathon, and then we're working with our client to ask a set of questions around the technology that they use at the hackathon. Option 2 would be going a step further and selecting participants and running live feedback sessions with them. That can be anything from user experience to real world implementation. So perhaps you've identified a hacker at your event who has been very proactive in using the technology and reaching out to your mentors. Maybe you want to offer to pay them a stipend for getting on a 1 or 2 hour Zoom call, having them click through your API documentation, everything, and answer live questions. Oh yeah, I couldn't find this. Oh, and I remember when I clicked here, it was hard to see the exact thing. So I had to reach out and find what and this kind of verbal feedback that you're getting and collecting in a live recorded session, you can then take back to your product team. You can take back internally, and you can work on those things. And you've gotten it from someone who actually tried to use it and tried to implement it in the real world. And finally, why do we do this? Well, there's this concept called rubber ducking, which comes from the developer world, and the intention is to put an actual rubber duck on your desk and explain your lines of code to that duck. And if you can get through and explain your code, then you've essentially tested and debugged the issues that you could run into. It's a lot like writing a paper and reading your paper out loud. You don't realize that you wrote the same word twice when your eyes are glancing over it because your brain just glances over it. But when you're forced to say it out loud, you catch that you typed that word a second time. So using hackathons and these participants in this event is a good way to essentially try and explain line by line what your product or your software or service that you've just launched does. And they're going to tell you right back to you if something is or isn't working. And then finally, there's the efficiency through that product and process lifecycle management. So what we mean by that is you don't want to come up with a new product or service, launch it to the market, all systems go, and now all of a sudden you're having all these issues with all of your users, and you have to pull it off the market, and you have to go back to the drawing board, and you have to fix it. You have to deal with that public backlash. You have to deal with the trust that you've lost. So this allows for sort of that agile testing method within your product lifecycle, so you can address these problems before it goes out to the greater public and to your users who may not be your super users, who might be easier to lose than someone who's devoted to your company, your technology, or product. All right, lastly, we're going to go over the final KPI, which is talent sourcing. Everyone is always looking for talent. They're always looking to recruit people that can contribute to the organization, contribute to the bottom line in a positive way. And that means people are always looking for new ways to recruit and hire people. And hackathons are a really great option for this. So if you're going to hire the best of the best and attract candidates away from competitors, you need to build this talent pool. You need a database of candidates interested in working with you. You want to get these qualified leads that you can reach out to later and say, oh, I see you participated in our event and you're proficient in this skill. We have this posting. Would you be interested in applying for it? So again, you're crowdsourcing that talent acquisition. It starts by building that ideal participant profile. So you're going to work on your own. You're going to work with your hackathon provider. You're going to work with your event management team. You're going to determine who is it that we want to come to this event. We want, developers with Python experience. We want healthcare developers. We want fintech developers. There's so many different facets and aspects of technology that you want to hone in on that specific aspect that you're interested in hiring for. And you can build your hackathon around that profile, and then you can attract more people that fit that profile and give you a bigger database of talent that can possibly fill those open roles that you have. Another great thing to do at these hackathons, if you're looking at talent sourcing, is get your recruiters, get your HR team, get them involved in the hackathon. Offer up their time to participants as mentors, offer up their time to review resumes, offer them up as a resource for participants to talk with. And that gives your recruiters an open lane to discuss what's possible, what it's like working there, what jobs are open, assess these people in a more real environment, right? Sometimes interview environments people can be putting on their best face. They can be very structured and very well thought out. Whereas a hackathon, you're going to see how people are actually interacting with other people, what they're actually capable of building. So this next point, you can evaluate their skills. If they're creating an awesome MVP that wins at your hackathon, well, that's probably someone that you want to consider reaching out to for an open position, because they've just proven that they have the skills and the interest in what you're doing to be able to be a good fit at your company. Hackathons reach a lot of eyeballs. They're very interesting, fun events that, you can market and advertise in many different avenues. So if you have open positions, attaching that to the hackathon page, to the messaging that you're sending out, that this hackathon is not just a hackathon. There's opportunities for hiring. There's opportunities to meet with recruiting services, hiring managers. That's going to be a great way to market those open positions. And then finally, a little nugget we threw in here that we've done that just is a really fun way to collect more qualified leads that you can reach out to for talent acquisition, is what we call a business card raffle. And we're doing it in the virtual world. So whereas there might not be a physical fishbowl to dump an antiquated paper business card into these days, we do have this tremendous ability to easily send out a form, a survey over email virtually to your participants. And again, if you're offering up an incentive and you're in the form, you're asking all those qualified questions and getting the proper opt-ins, that's a great way to collect all of that information and have it exactly what you need in the format that you need, pipe it directly into your CRM. And it's another fun activity, right? A lot of times people are joining hackathons as a way to win. there's a prize pool that they're going after. They're spending their time because they want to not only build something cool, learn something new, but they want to win a piece of that money. So putting a raffle or a prize behind that can lead to more entries and more leads for you to reach out to. So with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Michael to go over the wrap up here.
Thank you so much, Justin. And speaking of virtual forms and quizzes, we're going to go ahead and see if we can publish ours here onto the chat. So you should now be able to see the quiz that's attached to this workshop. If you look to the right-hand side and click on the surveys button, that should display the quiz for you. Feel free to go ahead and participate there. As far as a wrap up, again, we hope you found this curriculum interesting and informative. Again, we started with some general things around how the definition of a hackathon is seemingly evolving. And we're also seeing that we are able to, alongside our partners, our customers, administer hackathon type formats to drive real business impact, focused on specific key performance indicators. So we hope you found that informative about which KPIs and which use cases that we're seeing that are somewhat in line with what a traditional hackathon you would think it would be when we talk about product development, that sort of thing. But you can also kind of rip and replace product development with things like process development and other ideation that we're seeing a lot of. So again, we hope you found this informative. We will follow up with you as well for the participants here and let you know, share some of the quiz results, as well as re-administer perhaps another quiz through a type form format, and also keep you informed on the follow-up workshops that will align to this particular curriculum in case you're interested in attending those as well.
Michael, I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to ask you this question that came in from a participant. I think it'd be great to answer it. So sure. CJ Middleton asked, how do you typically engage with firms that might not be aware of BeMyApp or how to best leverage a hackathon?
How do we typically engage with firms that might not be aware of BeMyApp or how to best leverage a hackathon? Well, first of all, we would, try to cover off on the awareness part, make sure that, they are aware of us. I'm not sure, oftentimes what will happen is firms will reach out, they'll go through hackathon.com or some of the other areas that we have contact forms, and they'll reach out to us. They eventually funnel to our team at BeMyApp. The way that we engage with those firms are just like any other, I guess you could say like a project or sales evaluation, where we start by just trying to understand what those firms might believe a hackathon or an event format might, what sort of value they're looking to get out of it. And then we do a lot of diagnosing in that regard before we prescribe. And that's where we see a lot of these different various renditions that might look and feel like a hackathon, and for all intents and purposes they are, but they take on kind of a life of their own because they're aligned to specific KPIs or positive business outcomes that these firms are wanting to drive in the overarching strategy. So I hope that answers.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but one thing that we do is we leverage those hundreds of hackathons and developer events that we've done. We build use cases. So if there's a firm that's unaware of BeMyApp, and maybe BeMyApp doesn't explicitly say what the name itself doesn't explicitly say what we're doing, and we need to get over that hump with that firm, well, we have these use cases, and we have so many in different verticals and different technologies and different types of event formats that we do. So we're going to build out those use cases and as a first step present to them and show them what we've done with similar companies or similar goals or KPIs that they have, to make them aware of what BeMyApp does and how they can leverage a hackathon for their own firm.
Yeah, good point, Justin. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that question. We didn't intend to, have this workshop market BeMyApp in necessarily any way, but wanted it to be more informative. But yeah, absolutely, we can certainly help with our experiences over the last 10 plus years that we've been doing these things. In a sense, we've developed our own ecosystem and knowledge base that we're happy to share for other firms that are looking to drive business impact through the hackathon format, or any event format for that matter.
And that was the only question that came through. So if you want to go ahead and continue, Michael, I guess I'll throw it up to the thank you slide.
Yeah. So with that, first of all, Justin, thank you for taking us through that curriculum. And thank you, everyone that is participating here live. Again, this will be available on demand. And for those that were able to participate live, there will be some follow-up that you can anticipate seeing within the next week or two from here. So thank you again.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone.